Hello everyone, this is me Debosmita Sarkar. Today we are going to talk about CBSE Class 9 Political Science Chapter 1. What is democracy and why democracy? Definition of democracy. Democracy is a form of government in which the rulers are elected by the people. One chief factor common to all democracies is that the government is chosen by the people. It also helps students demarcate between democratic and non-democratic demarcate. It also helps students to demarcate between democratic and non-democratic governments from the non-democratic governments. Take the example of Myanmar, where rulers were not elected by the people. Those who were in charge of the army of the country took over as rulers, and people had no say in this decision. Dictators like Pinochet in Chile are not selected by the people. This also applies to monarchies. Features of democracy. The simple definition of democracy gives rise to various questions which are given below. Who are the rulers in this definition? What kind of election constitutes a democratic election? Who are the people who can elect the rulers or get elected as rulers? Finally, what form of the government is a democracy? Major decisions by elected leaders. Some countries, like Pakistan, do not follow this rule. In Pakistan, General Pervez Musharraf led a military coup in October 1999. He overthrew the democratic elected government and went on to become the president of the country. In 2002, he also held a referendum in the country that granted him a 5-year extension. Meanwhile, after passing of this legal framework order, elections were held to the national and provincial assemblies, and elected representatives were granted some powers. But the final power rested with military officers and General Musharraf himself. Hence, we can conclude it is not a democratic country. The same thing happens in many dictatorships and monarchies. Thus, we can conclude that in a democracy, the final decision-making power must rest with those elected by the people. Free and fair electoral competition. In China, elections are held after every 5 years for electing the country's parliament, called Guangguo Renmin Daibiao Dahui, National People's Congress. Before contesting elections, a candidate needs the approval of the Chinese Communist Party. The government is also formed by the Communist Party. Alternatively, since its independence in 1930, Mexico holds elections after every 6 years to elect its president. But until 2000, every election was won by a party called PRI. Means PRI is of the Mexican, and in English it is known as Institutional Revolutionary Party. Here we have if we short form the English name, it's written IRP, but in Mexican it will be PRI. So you have to write PRI only. And if you want to write the English name, you can. But PRI and English name should be there. Okay. Should we consider now let's continue. Should we consider the elections described above as examples of people electing their rulers? Reading these examples, we get a sense that we cannot. Democracy must be based on free and fair elections where those currently in power have a fair chance of losing. One person, one vote, one value, one value. Democracy is based on here only one value. I wrote it by mistake earlier. Democracy is based on a fundamental principle of political equality. However, there are many instances of denial of the equal right to vote. Until 2015 in Saudi Arabia, women did not have the right to vote. Estonia has made its citizenship rules in such a way that people belonging to the Russian minority found it difficult to get the right to vote. In Fiji, the electoral system is such that the vote of an indigenous Fiji has more value than that of an Indian Fijian. Okay, here indigenous Fiji means the local Fiji, the ones who are born in Fiji, okay, who are from Fiji. Definitely not a democratic government. The future of democracy this highlights is that in a democracy, each adult citizen must have one vote, and in turn, one vote must have one value: rule of law and respect for rights. Zimbabwe attained independence from white minority rule in 1980, and from then the country has been ruled by the party that led the freedom struggle, ZANU-PF, its leader, Robert Mugabe, ruled the country since independence. Even if elections were held regularly, it was always won by ZANU-PF. Here ZANU-PF is the party's name. Sorry. So yeah. Here ZANU-PF is the party's name. Like we have in India, we have BJP, INC, Indian National Congress, and everything we have. Like that, ZANU-PF is the party over there, and its leader is Robert Mugabe, who always, whenever the elections were held, ZANU-PF means this party always won. See, it's written over here also. If elections were held regularly, it was always won by ZANU-PF. President Mugabe means uh, Robert Mugabe was popular but also used unfair practices in elections. There was a law that limited the right to criticize the president. Television and radio were controlled by the government and gave only the ruling party's version. There were independent newspapers, but the government harassed those journalists who went against it, and so on. Not a democratic government. A democratic government rules within limits set by a constitution, law, and citizens' right. Hence, we can deduce that government is a form of government in which rulers elected by the people take all the major decision elections after a choice and fair opportunity to the people to change the current rulers. This choice and opportunity is available to all the people on an equal basis. The exercise of this choice leads to a government limited by basic rules of the constitution and citizens' right. Cons of democracy. Leaders keep changing in our democracy, leading to instability. Democracy is all about political competition and power play, leaving no scope for morality. Many people have to be consulted in democracy, which leads to delays. Elected peoples do not know the best interests of the people, resulting in bad decisions. Democracy leads to corruption since it is based on electoral competition. Ordinary people don't know what is good for them, they should not decide anything. So cons means the disadvantages of democracy. Okay. From these arguments, we can see that democracy of the kind we see may not be the ideal form of government. However, we will see if democracy better than the other forms of government that there are for us to choose from. Now, the arguments in favor of democracy. A democratic government is a better government because it is a more accountable form of government. Take the example of India and China from 1958 to 1961. While China was hit badly, India did not fare as badly despite its economic condition. Reason for this could be that India responded to the food scarcity in a way that Chinese government did not. Here, we see that democracy is better than any other form of government in responding to the needs of the people. Second, democracy improves the quality of decision making, means democracy is based on consultation and discussion. A democratic decision always involves many people, discussions, and meetings, and they are able to point out possible mistakes in any decisions. This may take some time. However, the advantages of taking time over important decision is that it reduces the chance of rash or irresponsible decisions. And for that, we always say, take your decision slowly. Don't be in a hurry. So in third, democracy provides a method to deal with differences and conflicts. In any society, people are bound to have differences of opinions and interests. These differences are particularly more in a country like ours with amazing social diversity. People belong to different regions, speak different languages, practiced different religions, and have different castes. The preference of one group can clash with those of other groups. How do we resolve such a conflict? Democracy provides the only peaceful solution to this problem. In a democracy, no one is a permanent winner or loser. Different groups can live with another peacefully. Fourth, fourth, democracy enhances the dignity of citizens. Democracy based on the principle of political equality recognizes that the poorest and the least educated have the same statuses as the rich and the well-educated have. Fifth, democracy is better than other forms of government because it allows us to correct our own mistakes. Even if no government can guarantee that no mistakes will be made in a democracy, one can be sure that it will be not be hidden for too long. It makes space for public discussions on this mistake. There is also room for correction. Rulers have to change their decisions or they could themselves be changed. Thus, we can correctly infer that while democracy may not be the solution to all problems, it is still clearly better than any other alternative. Now we will know the broader meanings of democracy. So in this chapter, the meaning of democracy is discussed in a descriptive sense. Students get to learn about democracy as a form of government, thus helping them to identify a clear set of minimal features that democracy requires. The common form adopted by democracy is representative democracy. In a democratic country, all people do not rule. A majority is allowed to take their decision on behalf of all the people through their elected representatives. This has become necessary for the reasons given below. Modern democracies involve such a large number of people that it is physically impossible for them to sit together and take a collective decision. Even if they could, the citizens does not have the time, the desire, or the skills to take part in all decisions. Democracy as a principle can go beyond the government and can be applied to any sphere of life. People use the word democracy not to describe any existing government but to set up an ideal standard that all democracies must aim to become. However, if the ideals of democracy are considered that no country in the world is correctly democratic, still having an understanding of democracy has an ideal will explain why to value democracy. It enables people to judge an existing democracy and identify their weaknesses. It also helps to distinguish between minimal democracy and a good democracy. The most common form of democracy in today's world is being ruled through people's elected representative. However, for a small community, there can be other ways of making democratic decisions. All people can sit together and make decisions directly. This is how the Gram Sabha should work in a village. Now I will answer some frequently asked question. That the most important and common question hopefully everyone have, is why should we have a democracy? So first reason is equality and freedom of all actions. Second is voting leads proper selection of government official. Third is dealing with conflicts. And fourth is enhances women empowerment. These are the four important reasons for why should we have a democracy. Now second, it is type of MCQ, say that where is Zimbabwe located? Zimbabwe is landlocked country in Southeast Africa and is separated from Zambia by the Zambezi River. And what is legal framework order? The legal framework order refers to presidential decrees issued during military rule in Pakistan in 1970 and 2002 over the organization of election. This legal framework order also have some malpractices, fraud and malpractices. Okay. So, with this we came to the end. So let's end this video with Dumbledore's one line from Chamber of Secrets, that it is not our abilities that show what we truly are, it's our choice. So with this we come to the end. Thank you. Please do like, share and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to comment.